Good evening and welcome back to Shenzhen I, where I have just cut off the applause because we probably didn't need that. Hello. Let's just check the sound's behaving itself. Is that capturing from the right place? That's input capture, you idiot. Output capture. Yes, good. Right. Hello. So, last time we were in Shenzhen, we... Excuse me, my mouse pointer is not behaving itself. We constructed a bunch of objects. I can't remember quite where we started. But we've just reached... The recent things we've... Get your brain in order, Harris. The targets, the things we have to build available to us at the moment are a bunch of dubious military and near military things. A thing for mining thorium in Xinjiang.
Also dubious.
Yes. Or another one from the thing that started off with the aquaponics maintenance robot, namely a router, a simple data router for smart grids, which I think is, yes, like if you've got you're networking together a bunch of devices so that I think electricity meters in this case, so that they use one another as network routers rather than having to build your own, rather than having to actually build out specific routers and such like. So yes, this one looks like quite an interesting task. So this is the one I intend to work on first.
Obviously immediately terrible.
Well, yes, and I'm interested in what on earth they're doing here. So there'll be a short delay while I bounce IRC clients. Right, so now I can do these in two separate places. So here is our specification. We have 3 packet inputs and 3 packet outputs, 3 XBus inputs and outputs, and and this weird little device. And our aim is that we receive packets on any of these inputs, and if the packet is for us, we send it to meter out. If it's for someone with a higher ID than us, we send it to higher out, and if it's for someone with a lower ID than us, we send it to lower out, and thus we have a perfectly sensible system for devices to communicate with one another. So the tricky thing here is that we need some kind of... I mean, ideally we would have one enormous processor with 6 XBus ports. But sadly, the biggest processor we've got has 4 XBus ports. And we don't have any XBus multiplex... Sorry, with 7 XBus ports, because we need something to connect to the ID device as well. So... what are we going to do about this then? So, and they're all blocking XBus inputs, which means we essentially can't have one processor reading on all 3. Maybe that actually solves a lot of our problem. So that means we need at least 3 processors, which kind of makes me go, well, do we just do something like this and then wire all 3 of the outputs to the outputs? But can we connect multiple things to one XBus output like that? Can we then do the others in parallel? How are we going to find enough space for all of these tracks? And we've run out of things before we've wired in the timer. So I don't think that's the way we do it. On the other hand, obviously we need a processor for each input. So maybe let's just drop a processor next to each input to start with while we think. But let's make it an MC4000 for reasons. So I think the main job of these processors... is that each one essentially waits for something to come in on its input and then uses a simple I/O pin to signal to the next stage, here is some data, and at the same time sends stuff over its X bus out. It's one of its X bus pins. So that to me says that then we want an MC6000 here. No, we need... Oh, gods, we need two... Problem is we need something that can listen then on 3 simple I/O pins. We need something that can listen on 3 simple I/O pins and 3 X bus ports. And we ain't got anything that can do that on its own. But we can use one of these to do the simple I/O processing. This is going to be very space constrained, isn't it? Oi, come here. Thank you. Why can't we put wires onto the other side of the board, damn it? So then that would be fine, except that we've only got... I think I may have to do some testing of what you can do with multiple X-bus inputs and outputs connected together. Because this is getting... Because, like, if we do this, then we need something that has 1 X-bus port to connect to this and 3 X-bus ports to connect to those, and the ability to transmit anything. I'd like, what? That's just not going to work either. That weird part that we just acquired, which is admittedly not recommended for this job, that mad, like, CPLD job, that's not actually going to help us much here, is it? Because it's all simple things. What we want is a simple I/O driven X-bus demultiplexer. So, I mean, what happens if I do... I suppose the first question is, what happens if I do the really, really stupidly obvious thing? Yeah, an MC4000X does indeed have 4 X-bus ports, but that's still not help. That's exactly like an MC6000, which I also have. Like, I don't think this gains us an awful lot, in that we can't, if we're going to, if we have a single device that's connected to all the X-bus inputs, it will just, it can't read from all of them at once, and you can't do a sleep until one of my inputs is readable. So we have to have one device reading each input. So, like, I can perfectly well take that off the board and put an MC4000X in its place, but that doesn't help that doesn't greatly help us, until we actually know how connecting multiple X-bus inputs together goes. Like, what happens if I do that? Except I can't. No, they're blocking X-bus inputs. Note, these X-bus inputs are blocking, so we will need to connect all inputs so that they can be read at once, brackets simultaneously. So I don't think that that will do anything useful, but let's find out. So that does read, we just don't know where it read from. Does that matter? Maybe we don't care where we get the data from. If you attempt to read from an input that's not ready, you will. Well, if you're using SLX, you will block. You will sleep. You will sleep until it's ready, and if you're using MOV, you will block without sleeping until it's ready. But yes, it looks like XBus may actually be a bus. So maybe we can get away with this. We can also make that one pin smaller, which will make things easier. There we go. Maybe. I mean, let's find out whether we can get away with this. But that appeared to work in our minimal testing. So let's see how far we can get with this stupid design. So then we can obviously use either an MC4000X or an MC6000 as our demux, except for the problem that we need two inputs and three outputs, because we also need to be able to read that. But maybe the way we deal with that is we actually use an MC6000 as the demux and have this thing read. Oh no, that needs both. Oh gods, no, that's not going to work, because that we need two XBus ports on this as well. Well, let's go for two MC6000. No, surely we can. Yeah, an MC4000X. You're quite right there, and maybe we can thus use an MC4000X for the other one, actually. Well, let's try it. So the first byte of the packet is the ID of the destination. Second is the length of the rest of the packet. So we could do something like MOV, well, SLX X0, MOV X0 ACK. TCP ACK X3. So that's compare the incoming address with our local ID. Now, this is, again, the usual horribleness. What I now really want to do is to send something that indicates which port to use. But maybe actually I don't do this. Maybe I just send our ID first and we let the receiver do that comparison. Maybe that's simpler. I mean, that's very silly, but so the tiny component with the padlock on it is essentially a ROM that always returns the ID of this node. So it has some constant burned into it. And it's an XBus device, so it can return any number between -999 and +999. So maybe what I do is this something really trivial, that actually I just do, then send the destination ID to X2. Then I need to move the length into the accumulator so that I can count it. Then we have a loop which basically does teak ac 0 if it is jump to the top. Mov x0 x2 sub 1, discover we're one instruction short, of course. Well, let's test this as far as it goes, and maybe that'll have to become an MC6000. So then that again might be able to be done with an MC4000X, because it will just go so the first packet is our ID. First byte is our ID. The next byte is the destination. Oh, that doesn't work, does it? Because we need to pass on the destination. So we can't just do a test against the destination. So let's fix that by swapping those two around. So now the first byte is the destination ID of the packet, and then we compare against that the next byte, which is our ID. This is going to be annoying because the packet transmission code is going to have to be replicated 3 times, isn't it? I suppose, yes. Because we're going to need to use the condition flags to count down. We're going to need lots of instruction space for this. All states. Right. It's true. Well, let's see how... I'm going to carry on with this design for now. Oh. Dizzyet says, and then the internal protocol can just be destination byte, data byte. So he essentially... Yes, I like that plan. Okay, so we make this one, we have more of the hard work go on in the MC6, in the input processor, which becomes an MC6000. And less of the hard work in the output processor. Let's try it and see. So yes, then we can do a trick like so I'm carefully reading IRC in case there's more hints there. Right, so let's rewrite this bit then. So the first byte is... Let's actually just wipe most of that out and do it again. So the first incoming byte is the destination. So we need to look at that and pass it on. So let's, for now, mov that into ACK. When I say destination, I mean the address of the destination, not the port of the destination, which is the other thing we're going to need to do. So then the second, so then we need to calculate, compare that with our address, and do something like mov dat 0 if they're equal because this isn't an arm. Mov 0 dat mov -1 dat mov 1 dat. Destination internal byte has to be pre-subtracted. I don't think I understand what you mean there, but I might work it out as we get closer. So now dat tells us where it's going. So then we go. Then we move the accumulator in. Then I think what we do, is we send. Oh, I so want the jump to a register offset. Because what I actually want is to be able to send a bunch of instructions which are send this byte to this output and packet complete. Though maybe we just do that. We send one byte that is the packet complete, one byte that's where should the next byte go, and then the byte, and repeat. Because that's a fairly cheap set of operations. So yes, if we did that, we obviously want to now. Oh, hang on. We can't yet read the accumulator, of course, so we need to send. So we first have to send the destination to the output. So we send. If we're following the current idea, mov dat x2, mov ac x2. So that does most of what we want. The only trickiness is we need to somehow instruct the second processor when it should sleep. Because if it blocks reading, that's not acceptable. It has to sleep while reading in between packets. So I think that does mean we have to send something to say end of packet. Annoyingly. But let's see if we can get at least the first packet sent. Oh, it can sleep every pair. Let's try that. Let's see if that works. I'm not sure it can, but I think it's worth a try. So then all it does is something like mov x0 ac. This is irritatingly ternary where I need to execute different code on each one. Yeah, but it might work. I'm willing to give it a try. I think we might be able to have it essentially sleep for no time. How do we do this comparison efficiently? I don't know which way around these are going to go. I'm just going to do them some way and then work out whether it works correctly. If you can be bothered thinking it through rather than just seeing where the tests fail and fixing it afterwards, that's fine. So the problem with TCP, so that fits. The problem I would have with TCP is how obviously that was wrong. Is that then I end up with something rather hairy, like which might be one instruction shorter than what I had before. You're right, it did. I was missing a jump in the first version, yes. So that does actually... So this is probably shorter. But it is really irritating there isn't a equals condition code, which there isn't. Right, do we think that works? No, it doesn't, because we're missing one instruction here to actually do the packet loop. Okay. Actually, there's an obvious way it doesn't work, is it sends everything to the wrong outputs because we haven't even tested it. Okay, it does worse than that. So what happened there then? Let's do this a step at a time. So read in the address. That has compared equal apparently. We send the destination. And then we send the destination address. So we sent it to the wrong place. It should actually have gone to meter out. So shall we fix that first? I don't think we have to sleep between each XBus byte. I think those all happen in one time unit. Indeed, I think it's possible that everything happens in one time unit. Maybe not. No, there is some time going on there. But I think the entire packet comes in all at once in large-scale time. So that first one should go to meter out, which means, and that was an equal, so that should go to x2, of course. So let's swap x2 and x3 in the outputs. So we read that, Send 0, which says send it to meter out. We send the data to meter out. Hang on. ACK here still contains an address. That's not very helpful. We need ACK to contain the length of the packet. We've missed a stage, which is a pity given we have no spare code. So actually we can simplify this bit, can't we? As you originally suggested, why are we not doing it pre-subtracted? So let's instead go sub x3 ACK mov ACK dat, and that saves us 2 instructions. So let's just test that that does vaguely what we wanted. Too many operands. Okay, sub x3. Obviously that does what we wanted. It still transmits 0. Right, that'll do for now. So now we've got 2 spare instructions, which is precisely the number we need. Now we do... oh no, that doesn't work, because that throws away the address that we needed, that we had in ACK. Stoats. No, that's not a problem. Well, it's kind of a problem. That needs 2 instructions to reassemble it, because we could do because we know that dat is the difference, so we could add dat back on. Oh yes, we can do that with 1 instruction, can't we? Add x3 back on and we get the address we first thought of. Sadly that cost us an instruction which we don't have spare. Because we still need to actually... Oh, no, we don't need to Oh, no, we do. Oh. Can we reuse that mov dat x2 somewhere else? Yeah. Not so much can we unroll as how much can we roll back into the loop, I think. Don't think we can really... Well, oh. We do have a completely spare accumulator on the right-hand processor. So if we have to swap the bytes over, we could, couldn't we? But that costs us a couple of extra instructions on the output. But the input is where we're short of space. So then we currently... So let's try that. So that would then be, that sends the address. That's then the length. But and that's stuck in the accumulator, which isn't really where I want it. So then let's clear this loop out and get myself some room to think. You don't want sub 1 yet. You don't need to add any more. Send the unsubtracted one. Yeah, I don't think they're it has semicolon comments. No, that's just a syntax error. Yes, it has comments, but there isn't really very much space to put them. I mean, we can, of course, stick an entire post-it note on the circuit board. I think we might even be allowed to put the post-it note off the circuit board. If you swap the bytes, you can send the address before subtracting. Cute, yes. Because, of course, this one also gets swapped. So we go... So I may just be... Actually, that probably means I can copy and paste stuff into the... So we then go... That then allows us to remove that. Yes, I believe Yeah, look, explicitly noted, post-it notes are free.
That's a good job, really. I mean, modern development runs on post-its. Sorry, sticky notes officially.
There, protocol documentation. Right. So we've now read the length. So then we do, and like at some point I will see that where I can jump back into this loop, which we think is probably here. Have we really got 3 instructions spare? No, we still have to move the next. Because actually that's not what I wanted. We need... that as well. So then on each loop we send... data and destination, and when our accumulator reaches 0 we don't do either of those and we jump back to the top. Okay, let's see what that does. Oh, we need to rewrite the right hand program, don't we, to fix the new date, to actually understand the new protocol. So that's fairly simple. It just does mov x0 ac, and then all of those mobs come from ac rather than x0. Right. Okay, that's sending to the wrong destination. Why is that sending to the wrong destination? Because... no. Okay, I'll pay attention to the right processor this time. So that's the packet destination. Hang on, we're missing an instruction here, aren't we? We never actually send the port destination for the first packet, I think. There we go. That went to the right place. Right. And our counter is counting down happily, and we're accumulating an output packet. And then we sent something the wrong way. Slightly to my confusion. Right, why did that happen while I was just sitting here blithely hitting step? So first byte is my counter is wrong, isn't it? It's something embarrassing, like I'm counting the length byte as one of the bytes. Here, let's just adjust the counter. Right, there we go. Yes, I think you're correct. It's an off by one error in the length. So this stands a 50% chance of sending the output to the wrong destination. Yes, wrong way. Right, I think that now should now work. Hurrah! So by taking advantage of the not very well documented how you can read things from multiple X-bus ports at the same time, that seems to have done quite a nice job. Right, it slightly has the problem that if we actually receive packets at multiple inputs at once, they'll get lost. But I'm sure the higher layers are capable of coping with that. You're getting scared of the alternative implementations that somehow manage to do it at half this price. So, yes, I mean our cost is pretty low, 8 yuan. But yes, we do appear to have someone who did it for under or equal to 5 yuan. So they managed it with probably one processor. What? I can't even. Can you do some ludicrous thing like having the security chip plugged into the same bus as everything else, and you read from that whenever you're not reading from anything else? Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe it's just some feature we haven't got yet. You know, I slightly wonder if you can do something with RAM, but I don't think that's wise. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Mr. Sun is apparently pulling in a lot of resources and groups to create various subsystems for something. Nobody knows what it is other than that it's going to be very big and potentially very lucrative for firms involved. We are on a path to further our good relationship with his group and eventually become trusted partners. So let's continue to do our best work here. Dear homeowner, homes infected with viruses or malware can lead to spoiled or poisoned food, water damage and flood damage, even kitchen and electrical fires. Security experts agree home virus and malware protection is necessary to reduce the risk of hackers and cybercrime tampering with your refrigerator, water heater, thermostat and more.
Or you can knock the internet of shit stuff and put it in your house. That's the other option.
We live in Shenzhen. That's clearly not a possibility.
Oh, how our glorious leader.
Well, our glorious, cheap, random electronic tat, anyway. The Fortress protection system proactively sweeps, scans, detects and repels intruders from all home appliances. Sign up for Fortress today and sleep better at night knowing you are protected by the best home defence in the country.
I stand by my original comment.
I'm working on a smart window that reacts to particulate matter in the air, brackets pollution. I need a controller that allows us to close the window when the level is too high and opens it again when the level is lower. Well, I mean, that sounds simple enough.
And not particularly ethically dubious. I mean, obviously.
Sensor is a simple input connected to an air pollution sensor. Window is a simple output connected to a motor that opens and closes a sliding window. The window should be opened when the average... Oh, okay, slightly interesting. Average sensor reading for the 8 most recent time units.
Green buffer.
Thank you. Including the current, is greater than or equal to 50.
One simple way of doing stuff over the last n time units is to have a ring buffer.
Yes.
Okay.
This is really, really useful for quite large bits of radio astronomy.
Yes,
which is why I know about ring buffers.
Okay.
Yes, so what we have is we have a buffer of the last 8 readings, and each time unit we add the latest reading into our accumulator and subtract the one 8 time units ago.
And then average it in there.
Well, we don't need to. We just keep a running sum of the last 8.
Yeah.
And then we just compare against 400 rather than 50. 8 is not the size of the RAM. The size of the RAM is 14.
Hooray!
But that's not a problem because of the only slightly mad way that RAM works in this system. I say only slightly mad because the only RAM you get in TIS 100 is a stack. So you spend half your time reversing everything.
Put this on the stack, put this off the stack.
But we could have... But thus we can wire up... We can use the fact that it has 2 internal pointers to allow us to write at one position and read at another and just have these 2 pointers permanently 8 units apart from one another. 14 is a perfectly sensible size for your RAM when each one is 3 digits decimal with a sign and each cell is 3 digits of decimal with a sign. Okay, yes, that's a pin type mismatch. Actually, let's go for making this the read port, or whichever. I'll work it out in a moment. Because we don't actually need both of the address pins. We can take advantage of the fact that the default address is 0 anyway. And not bother wiring up one of the address pins. So then we just go like at startup we want the right pointer to advance to position 7 in the RAM. I can't work it out. Let's try it. If you insist. We need the maybe a 4000 would be enough if we just advance by reading 8 times let's see if we've got enough. Let's write the program in this nice, generously provided for thing, and if that works, then work out if we can condense it into an MC4000, which we might be able to. Actually, this is a ROM. That's not going to help us very much. Let's put the correct chip in. There. Right. So just to demonstrate that, then advance. No, that's not right. X1. See, worth testing. Even this trivial program that then advances the pointer to point to position 7. At least the RAM isn't 1 based, it's 0 based, I think. Hang on. Yes. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then our loop essentially goes, move that into the right. No, that's not helpful, is it? Move that into DAT. Add DAT. X0. Sub. Whatever pin that's connected to, X2, TGT, AC 400. This is all going to be wrong in various subtle ways. But that's the approximate shape of the thing. Simon suggests, hey, numbers are signed in this universe. The RAM could have 0 in the middle if you were really unlucky. So that would obviously require it to have an odd number of cells to make your life even more entertaining.
Connection refused from Thirsties here, but not from here. Confused lost connection.
Well, let's just run simulate and see what it does. Well, that does completely the wrong thing. Excellent. So first, I think the offset between the pointers is wrong. Right, so. So the first thing is the window is in the wrong, has the states the wrong way around. Right. Well, that seemed to work. Let's just hit simulate and let it run. Right, well, it's not bad. Starting with average 0 appears to be right. We do close the window at precisely the right moment. We just open it one step too early. So that, to me, says that we aren't advancing the pointer far enough early on. Let's try opening it, because we released things slightly too early. That's better. Oh, in test run 8 we got an error. Right, well that probably means my TGT is wrong, doesn't it? Probably means something like I've gotten off by 1 error there. Let's try that instead then. Obviously the alternative is to start the average offset by 1. Never previously had a failure in a test run other than the first. But when you've got something that's compare against 400 and it was meant to be 399. Well, I think we did pretty well there. Yes, some lunatics managed it cheaper, but
Probably using stuff to get later on.
or possibly just being excessively clever.
Mm.
Obviously, in a sensible. Thank you, thank you, G. Good. By the way, maybe you noticed that this is a sliding window algorithm for a sliding window. Yes, it's true. It's a sliding window algorithm for a sliding window. Well done. Traffic signal for a 6-way intersection with support for emergency transponders that override the normal traffic pattern. Or meat-based printer. The increase in extreme weather events across the globe has resulted in a... You may have been picturing a sliding window, but it was explicitly a hinging window, but it was explicitly stated in the spec. Window is a simple output connected to a motor that opens and closes a sliding window. See, we were told it's a sliding window. There was a hint. Meat-based printer. The increase in extreme weather events across the globe has resulted in the need for innovations in food security. Recent advances in nutritional technology have allowed for a variety of meat-like products to be assembled out of a common substrate. A portable meat production station could be an effective solution in the recovery period after initial emergency supplies have been used. I have sourced some initial meat product designs that we can use to get started. Carl is very much not in favour of eating any of this substance, however dire the emergency. Well, I think the traffic signal sounds terrifying, so I want to see the instructions for it. Yes, there's our junction. Emergency is a simple input connected to a device that detects the transponders of nearby emergency vehicles. Light 0, Light 1 and Light 2 are simple outputs connected to the no-go traffic signals for 3 different directions at a hexagonal intersection. Control of the lights should be sequenced as indicated in the verification tab. Turning off all lights when an emergency vehicle is detected and restarting the sequence when it leaves transponder range. The durations of the phases are set by the operator using dials, 3 of them, that can be read as X-bus inputs. So it looks like this is not as terrifying as we might have thought, because we do only appear to have 3 sets of lights, so presumably no one is actually turning at this intersection. So, like, obviously we do this and get infuriated at the fact that the signals are upside down.
Signals upside down?
So the outputs from the I/O expander are numbered 0, 1 and 2 from bottom to top.
Yeah.
The traffic lights are numbered 0, 1 and 2 from top to bottom.
Good. That's some quality design there.
Well, presumably the person who designed the box that this thing's going to go in wasn't paying attention to what precise components we had at our disposal. I mean, we could try to swap them over, but I think that would just lead to unhappiness. So then we're going to need something with ideally 4 X-bus ports and a simple I/O port. So this is totally going to need an MC6000. Actually, well, no, it doesn't really matter. Oops, no, wrong type, you're right. So like, this feels like it should be easy, except that it's going to like require doing. So it feels like this is just more. I mean, if we ignore the emergency transponder for now, this is something like. That. And like that doesn't appear to have been catastrophic. No one's died. I mean, the fact that we switch phases instantaneously is probably a bit of a problem. But that does actually appear to be within spec. Yeah, I feel that we should probably have a small period of all red. Like, a little bit, maybe. So it all goes correct until the emergency transponder appears, at which point everyone becomes unhappy. But that surely is just like, I mean, yes, it's a couple. Actually, it's not. We don't need lots of jump instructions, do we? What we do is we go. Oh, there is an entertaining problem here, though, because those lovely long slopes don't work, do they? If we're being overridden by an emergency. And note we can have very short emergencies as well. Yes, we're not. Well, we're neither pausing nor overriding. We actually reset. Restarting. I think is it? Oh, is it restarting? No, you're right. It goes 5, 4, 2, 1, 1, 2. No, I think when it says restarting, it means start from the beginning. Because at the end of each emergency we've got here, we go back to light 0 being on. So we don't actually pause the cycle. We stop the cycle and go back to the start when the emergency is passed. But as you say, yes, it's not an override, so we can't just do it in logic after the main junction thing. So that kind of suggests we end up with 3 careful counting down, repeatedly monitoring P0 situations. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Interestingly, the number of all the phases is less than the number of cells in a RAM. Wonder if that's always the case. Could we have one processor that just reads all of those and writes out a RAM that says what you pass to the output every time step, and then a separate processor that handles actually doing the job? That would be cute, wouldn't it? There's like a slight timing problem at the start because it has to load up. We don't have an easy way to signal between the processors because we've run out of pins on the other one. Because otherwise we end up with this being a very big program. Then we have to reset the thing because the cycle length isn't 14. So we have to have. That might still work. Actually, we do have a spare port on this because we don't have to use the address port. So we do something like. No, we don't. This may actually be. Gods, you need so many instructions to do this. But if we reverse the bits, then we can just do. No, that's not going to work very well. No, this is going to be too messy. So, Diz has the idea. How about this design? 4KX and 4K. Preset processor reads presets in order and gives timing data to override an output processor. So I think by timing data you want it to send number and output state. Number of time units and output state. And then the output processor handles the counting. I think that might work. Let's try it. Okay, so we throw away the RAM because we don't actually need that. And that simplify. And then instead we go. There is a problem here, and it's an utterly infuriating problem. Or maybe it's not. Actually, let's do this backwards because it's prettier. Because that they can sleep in parallel. I didn't mean slip X3, I meant slip X0. You're right, I do. Let me wire it up so you can see quite slightly better what I mean. I think they should sleep the right amount, but you're quite right, we need to be able to reset things. Which might mean we actually want to bounce a signal back and forth. The annoying thing is that SLX only waits for readability and it doesn't wait for writability. That may not actually be a problem. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're quite right. We don't do that as a slip. We do that. Gods, can we fit this into an M4000X though? MC, whatever it is. Yes, and as you say, any long slip generates a state we can't interrupt, and we have to be able to interrupt this processor. But we can have it. But an SLX is quite acceptable there. The only awkwardness is that after each SLX, we need to say, do we need to reset now? I think. So we could have something like the buses are, of course, bidirectional. And that would work were it not for the fact that I need to put a load of extra instructions in here and we haven't got space, I think. Well, I said we haven't got... No, we haven't got space, have we? That doesn't fit. No. And we don't bother doing anything with there because we're going back to the top anyway. Yes, I think the preset processor is unconditionally reading after each thing. The conditions. This is essentially a conditional jump back. We would write this as plus jump to the top, except that requires one more instruction. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the version without the overrides, but using the U architecture, and then I'll worry about whether it works. Then I'll worry about adding the overrides. I do actually care about what the value is. 1 is naught, which means don't override. Don't know why it's that way around. Who designed this stupid protocol? Okay, that's amusing. Oh yes, we do have to do something with that, don't we? Right, there we go. Right, so that bit of it works, and we've got lots of space to implement the overrides in. So then what we do is we don't slip x naught, we instead mov x naught to ac. And then is when you're writing this kind of thing that it becomes obvious that this is a terrible processor design, because it hasn't got the S flag that the ARM has. So you end up putting in extra instructions just to...
What is the S flag in the ARM processor for those of us that didn't spend out doing this?
So let me see how I can explain this. So in the ARM, you have this. You can flag each instruction with what it under what circumstances it should execute, which it does by checking the CPU flags.
Mm-hmm.
What the S flag on some other instruction does is indicates whether that instruction should update the CPU flags.
Right.
So in particular, this means that. And so some instructions always have the S flag set. So the compare instruction, because all that it does is subtract this from that and set the CPU flags based on the answer, it always has it set. But for instance, the subtract instruction can either be subtract and set the CPU flags from the result, or just subtract. Which means that you can sensibly have, for instance, a long run of conditionalized instructions with the subtracting them without corrupting the flags on the way. But also means that you can, as your loop counter, have something that does subtract with setting the flags, followed by a conditional branch. But this processor doesn't have... And so that's one way of doing conditions. The classic way of doing your conditions is instead to only have a few conditional instructions and to essentially have the equivalent of the S flag set on everything, which means that you would do a subtract and then a conditional branch, but you only have conditional branches. And the problem with this is that this processor is that it doesn't set the flags on everything, or even have a way of making a subtract instruction set the flags. And Diziat is busy designing his own version of this in his head now. Right, so sleep 1, sub 1. So yes, I end up with this like unnecessarily complicated loop. Right, so I think that's a version that should do the same thing, but being interruptible at every step. Good. So then all that we need is to go I mean, this can probably be done better than with an entire subroutine down here, but yeah, this isn't quite right, is it? And it's too long, so that's not quite going to work. And I can't paste it because it's got a new line in it. Thank you. So yes, there's a slight problem with that, which is I think that it doesn't work. Still, it doesn't go badly wrong yet. Gets that far. And then the whole thing seizes up because it didn't send the NAC to say to the preset processor that it should restart. So we need to find one instruction we can squeeze out of this thing. Which is probably best done by something stupid like moving the whole of this lot up to the to there.
Your first command appears to be Timon, which is very confusing.
Yes. I think this can probably be simplified because it feels like we've got too many slips here as well. I think we actually want to do something like why have we got that slip with? Yeah, we want to do something more like this, don't we? I mean, that will do it, I think. Hang on, that's still got too many slips. And then we make that a jump L rather than a jump O. And we remove that label. And yeah, that might do the job. Well, except it crashes. Because we need to have that only happen as we fall out of there. Oh, stoats. I mean, technically we don't, but it's kind of awkward to do anything. Oh, hang on. Now, maybe we can do this. Maybe we... actually do the entire protocol. Maybe we go... oh no, but the entire protocol happens all the way up there. Oh, well maybe that's a jump T then. That feels stupid. Yeah, okay, it doesn't work. But I wonder if it could. No. So that tests the thing, and then we only want that to so that will then sit there, and our problem is that does slightly too many things, and then we need to know which of the two reasons why we sat in that tight loop actually applies. So the problem is that we only want to send back 1 0 for an arbitrarily long override, which is fine.
Have you scribed about inviting people over?
Yes, I have.
Because actually that wants to be when we leave the loop. When we leave this loop. So when we leave the override loop, that's when we're meant to send the instruction back saying, please restart from the top. So that probably means we can't just cram this all in here, annoyingly. So last time what we did was we put it in down here instead, but that meant we had to put a slip in it. And we ran out of space for it. I'm going to reinstate that and see if I can find a better way to do it. So that bit's fine, but then we end up with slip, compare, jump. And we can't use that compare because, There's a particularly stupid trick I could pull here, I wonder. I also feel that should probably be before that. Don't worry, I've lost track of my program as well. It is close to midnight. So, let's try to work this out again. So, our protocol is we read thing and we sleep for that long, or we get interrupted at some point, we wait for the interruption to finish, and then we send something back. So in both cases we have a loop. It's just that one version of the loop runs until P0 goes low, and the other version of the loop runs until the accumulator hits 0. But intriguingly, we could possibly arrange to have a loop that does... We could have a loop that's waiting for either of those to happen, or rather waiting for both of those to happen, because if we're counting down the accumulator, we can only finish the loop when P0 is also low, because otherwise we'd be in the override state. And we could arrange that when P0 goes low, we immediately make the accumulator 0, and if we check for less than 1, then the fact that it becomes excessively negative isn't a problem. Right. I think this is a plan. Let's see if we can make it go. So that bit's fine. And then we go, is override active? If override is active, then we need to immediately turn the lights off. If override is active, then we also set the accumulator to 0. As soon as override is released, we want to end the current phase. If override is active, we also... that's fine. Actually, no. Let's go further than that. Let's set the accumulator to -1 in that circumstance. So then... Then we sleep 1, obviously. Right, then we test whether the accumulator is less than 1. If the accumulator is less than 1, then we also test... I'm going to gradually remove lines from the end of the program. If the accumulator is less than 1, then... Actually, we're going to need that at some point. then we also test whether P0 is less than 50. Yes, I know it'll be a problem if it's precisely 50. If you start giving my digital input something precisely halfway between the rails, I reserve the right to do bloody stupid things. If both of those are true, then we jump out of the loop. B for break. If they are not true, then we actually make that jump T. So that's not quite right. No, we do make that jump B. Then we go back around the loop again. Right. When we reach the end of the loop, we send the accumulator back up to the sequencing processor. Where our sequencing processor previously did test for equality x30, we instead say test less than x3. Actually, no, that will do. Test equality x30 will do fine. So if the accumulator hits 0, we send 0 back up. Actually, we have to invert all the tests, don't we? We send 0 back up, in which case we keep processing. If we got an override, the accumulator will be negative, and we send a negative number back up. Yeah, I think you're quite right. The boxes should just expand, and you should just be unable to run the program when you've got extra. But we could always, I suppose, what I could do is copy and paste into post-it notes. The post-it notes are the same length as a short program, so you can't even fit everything in there. Right. So let's see what this does then. Good start, except that it seems to be forgotten we need to decrement the accumulator. Let's try that. That changed at the right moment. Good. The override happened correctly. And we've started the cycle at the right point again. Right. That turned out quite cute. I liked my code in that one. So yes, we successfully managed to merge those into a single loop with a single end condition, but where the accumulator kept track of which of the real end conditions we were going to pass out through, so that we could then send the fact of which end condition we'd hit back up to the sequencing processor. Yes, precisely. And it was quite fine to just keep decrementing the accumulator because, well, even because we've got saturating arithmetic, so even if we had a 999 second override, we would just saturate at minus 999 and send minus 999 back to the sequencer. So that was a success. Neither of those is sadly quite small enough to cram into an MC4000. So, yes, hooray, we have built a slightly silly traffic light sequencer with no intergreen time.
Well, it wasn't in the spec, was it?
No, there was no intergreen time in the spec, and that, yes. I mean, entertainingly, it would probably not be very hard to... you would need a slightly more complex sequencer, I suppose, and it is running a bit tight as it is, because it needs 4 instructions per phase, and we'd need to add another 3 phases, or it would have to become quite a bit cleverer. No yellow signal. Does this mean they're expecting robocars only? Believe me, the yellow is not the thing that worries me.
Amongst the things that worry you are such as elephant flowers.
So let's see what we have before we go to bed for the night. Cleanse your body of harmful nanoparticles from herbal carbon nanotube cleanse.
Yeah, God,
Carbon cleanse at healthsolutions.potions. Remove stray carbon nanotubes and other kinds of nanotoxins from the body the natural way with herbal nanoparticle cleanse only from Health Solutions. Stray carbon nanotubes have been entering our atmosphere at an alarming rate and can remain in the body for decades. Our 100% natural herbal remedy is made from genuine California veld grass, which has been shown to counteract the potential harmful effects of nanoparticles in the body and flush them out by enhancing the body's natural immune system. Order today and get a free 8-ounce bottle of Wi-Fi wash. A specially formulated all-natural body wash that removes Wi-Fi build-up on the surface of the skin. Herbal nanoparticle cleanse plus free Wi-Fi wash, US $30 value. Important not to end up covered in Wi-Fi. Security Nightmare from Carl Teskey. Remember Sleep Cubes, the capsule hotel company we did a little game console for? They're back, this time asking for a lock that's based off the national ID card. Loads of privacy concerns here, not to mention the fact that a trivially clonable master key opens any lock. But a job's a job, as they say. At least I think that's what they say.
I think that's saying this is a joke from Simon's company and seek your fortune somewhere other than Shenzhen. But I'm not quite sure where.
I've stayed at a sleep cube a few times. They're not too shabby. Get thrown out of a club or something. I was researching our customer. Actually using the product or service is a great way to familiarise yourself with the company. It's a natural part of any healthy corporate partnership. So this one has... Door is first unlocked. Good night, Cosmos. The door is first unlocked by hotel staff using a special card. The user can reprogram their lock by holding the Learn button and scanning their card. When the user scans their card again after reprogramming, the door should be unlocked. Any card other than the user's card should not unlock the door. To unlock the door, the unlock card signal should be held high for 6 units. Well, that'll be fun, but that's not for today. Yawn. Oh yes, we should at least briefly look at the spec for the meat-based printer as well. So this is a fairly simple thing. Keypad connected to a keypad. Extrude is a simple output connected to a meat extruder. Valve 0 through valve 2 are simple outputs connected to valves in the meat extruder that control whether lean mix or fat mix is extruded. When a value is available from the keypad, read it and assemble the corresponding meat specification, which are found on a page in the supplemental data section. So yes, well, we'll sort that out later, probably. Yes, an extension of the sandwich maker. Right, so good night from Shenzhen, and we will see you on Sunday.
It might be tomorrow.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe see people tomorrow in Shenzhen on Sunday.